Okay, here we go. Our curving curls on the Melanie. So just make assessments when you're working with curly hair. Um, Feel for the density of the texture because a lot of times the hair through the ends will be quite finer, so you have to adapt your cut for that. So section out her hair the way she naturally parts it through the front. And then from there, I'll start to cut in a square line in the back and that curves as I work towards the front. Combing out horizontal sections through the back. Now, we have to ensure that every section is combed exactly to natural fall. So with my guide, I'll split off and I'll start off on the right side. I'm cutting on the skin because this technique will allow me to get the strongest, cleanest line humanly possible. The left side, again, combing the hair to natural fall. Make allowances for any jumpy cowlicks at the nape area. And just as you cut the line, here I like to place the comb right above my guideline because my comb's a perfectly square zero line, so it gives me a nice standard, a visual balance to help me cut in a line that is as even, as clean as the back of my comb. So I like placing my comb there as a reference. It's kind of like having a competition between the comb and the line that I'm actually cutting. This me versus comb competition, I have to up my game because the back of my comb is super clean. So, and it also allows, like, as you're cutting your line, if there's any deviations and you have a square line right above it, those deviations will stand out much clearer and you're able to assess them and clean up your line better. As I cut in my line, my eyes are exactly in front of what I'm cutting. I'm not working with too much of the shear. I'm just working with the tips of my shears. If I'm cutting on the skin and you try and use too much of the shear, you'll start pushing the hair in front or away from you. So then you're going to spend half a year combing the hair to natural fall. So just get it to natural fall and just nudge in that line with the tips of your shears and always check for symmetry and balance. Still working the same manner, combing the hair to natural fall. Unless hair checks into my guideline here, but I'll just leave that alone. Hair that doesn't reach my guideline is none of my business at this point of the cut. I'll address it once I start doing my three-dimensional shape. Checking for symmetry and balance. And now I'll move my section onto the sides. So here I'm extending that line, combing the hair to natural fall. Now here I'm holding the hair just between the teeth of my comb. I line up my shears, my comb, to the length of the guideline through the back. Have your eyes exactly in front of what you're cutting. And always make allowances for that ear. If anything, go longer. Use less tension, tap the ears. There's a lot of ways to manipulate the ears. Just do what you have to do. If you have to use every way that you know, then use every way that you know, because the worst thing you can do is using too much tension or not allowing for that ear, and then your line has a big hole in it. Then also check for symmetry and balance between the ears. Again, standing right in front of what I'm cutting. I'm on my knees, so my eyes are level to the actual line that I'm creating. Make visual assessments. Okay, so I'll start my internal shape. On the left side, horizontal sections, I'll comb the hair out and slightly down. So this will give me a graduated shape. My elbows, fingers, shears, comb, they're all parallel. Make sure that you're stroking the hair super clean from roots to your guideline. And at this point of the cut, you really don't want to drop that elbow. Through the left portion of this cut, you want your elbow high, fingers low, and you're standing in front of what you're cutting. So my point of where I stand is just slightly parallel to her shoulder. And here with each progressive section, I increase my elevation slightly. So here I'm cutting in a curved, graduated shape, which works really nice for curly hair because once the hair is dry, that geometry will be super intense. because of that weight, I'm building up some weight here. So again, standing in front of what you're cutting. Now this section is quite large, so I'll have to break it down into probably 2 or 3 smaller areas, and I'll work my way from the top to the bottom, but just everything checking in, and my body position adapts as I work towards the back of the haircut. So at this point, I'm parallel to the shoulder. When I cut the front, I was in front of the shoulder. Now as you're working with these type of curved sections, remember, we're elevating, elbows up, fingers low, and you have to move your body along with your shape. So after I come out the next area, my body will pivot slightly more to the right. So I'm actually, throughout this cut process, my body position is also curved because that's the intention that I plan to cut here. If I were to place my feet and stand my ground, my over direction, chances are I would start building excessive weight. So move around and be fluid. Okay, still working our elevation, and notice how my sections, they run into the opposite side, which is fine. It'll give my shape a stronger foundation, because once I finish off this left side, I'll do the exact same technique on the opposite side. So through the back, I'll have intermixing sections, and that intermixing, that where the sections fuse, I build up some weight, so it gives my shape a lot more structural integrity. So come here to natural fall, make visual assessments. Just looking for how the hair falls, how the curl's working. Okay, so now to the right portion. Again, starting off with the same section, so horizontal, I'll over direct the hair out and down. Now here again, I have to cut in the exact same length, the exact same angle, at the exact same amount of elevation. So when you're cutting in a new guideline and you're kind of iffy about it, it's always safer to go longer than shorter, because you can always go back and take it shorter. So with the next section, remember here we're elevating, and this elevation will give our shape a lot more movement. It'll distribute the weight a lot better. It'll give us a much more fluidity when the hair is dry, because you have to remember, on curly hair, the hair exists at natural fall in more of a 3-dimensional manner, as opposed to bone straight hair, it exists in more of a 2-dimensional manner. So again here, fingers, elbows, shears, sections, all parallel, standing in front of what I'm cutting. Now as I comb out the hair, my stroke isn't super fast. It's just, it has intention, because there's a lot of calculations you have to make in your brain throughout the process of a haircut. So prior to even cutting this section, I'll comb it out. In my mind, I'm lining up my elevation, my shape. So I have a game, I have a map, I have intention with each stroke of that comb. So cutting strong is a thinking game, because actually, if your brain's not working and you're just being technical, you can have a lot of mistakes. So use that brain. It's our greatest tool, actually. Again, increasing our elevation, fingers high, elbows low. My elbows aiming towards the opposite shoulder. So here my elevation increases from high to low, and my shape is curved. So this section is actually quite gigantic, so I'll have to break it down again into several smaller, more manageable areas. So as I do this, I only put my attention on the area that I'm actually working on. Once that area is done, then I'll think and start considering the next portion of that section. Baby steps, step by step. And that's how it works for me personally. If I think of a section like here, I think this gigantic section all at one time, it's a bit much for my brain. So I find it much more easier to control if I break a large challenge down into smaller, more manageable challenges. At the end result will be the same. That's just how I perform. Everyone has their habits, their way of approaching cutting. Okay, so now that the sides and the top and back are done, I'll put in some gloss and prepare the hair for the finish. Just go and just tease the hair a little bit and just break up the shape. Okay, and for the finish this time, I won't be going with a diffuser. I'll go in with the dryer without a nozzle, and I'm just moving the hair around and just getting it dry. Because finishing the hair in this manner, she can go home and mimic the exact same technique. So now that the hair is dry, I'll go back and just visually chip into any heaviness. Okay, well there we have it. Our curving curls, the melon. Enjoy.